Stephanie White had seen enough. The officials had tilted the floor so obviously that her frustration finally boiled over. One whistle too many, one call too blatant, and she snapped, letting the referees hear exactly what fans across the country were screaming at their televisions. That outburst earned her a technical foul, but it also captured the raw emotion of the Indiana Fever's playoff opener. Because what do you call it when a team is already limping into the postseason missing 6 players, only to watch referees tilt the balance further? Bad luck? Or sabotage dressed up as officiating? The Fever entered Game 1 against the Atlanta Dream with a nightmare roster situation. Caitlin Clark's groin injury had already ended her season. Khloe Bibby was out with a knee. Sophie Cunningham and Sydney Colson were sidelined with knee problems. Arie McDonald was in a walking boot. And just a day before tip-off, Darius Dantas was yanked by concussion protocol. That's not bad fortune. That's half a rotation gone. 6 players who should have been on the floor were instead in street clothes. Any other team might have folded right there. The Fever brought every single one of them to Atlanta anyway. A show of unity that said, "This is our fight, together." But the optics were brutal. The bench was so packed that injured players had to sit in a second row like passengers waiting for a flight. It was inspiring, but also absurd. Even through the absurdity, there was resilience. Despite having their depth gutted, Indiana came out of the gate swinging. They jumped to a 15-6 lead, Kelsey Mitchell drilling shots early while Aaliyah Boston controlled the paint. For a few minutes, it looked like the impossible might happen. A broken roster shocking a healthy Dream squad, and then the whistle started. Defensive stops became free throws. Clean contests became fouls. Possessions that should have fueled momentum were instead frozen by referees who seemed determined to stamp their authority all over the game. Stephanie White burned 2 challenges in the opening minutes, both successful, both confirming what was obvious to anyone watching. Her team was being robbed. But challenges are limited, mistakes. Apparently not. Lexi Hull was shoved out of bounds with no whistle, then tagged with a foul on Ryan Howard moments later. Boston took an elbow to the face from Brittany Griner, but the whistle pointed the other way. By the second quarter, White had no challenges left, and the Dream were in rhythm. Atlanta's physicality was allowed to run wild, while Indiana's every bump was called against them. Coaches and players had no choice but to adjust, but fans could see the imbalance building like a storm. And when White finally erupted, it wasn't just anger, it was exhaustion. Exhaustion from watching her players fight through a season of injuries, only to be punished again in the postseason. Exhaustion from fighting the other team and the referees at the same time. Still, the Fever never quit. They leaned on Kelsey Mitchell, who put up a playoff career-high 27 points. Dragging the offense forward possession after possession, she hit threes when the paint was clogged. She carved out lanes even as Atlanta swarmed her. She did everything but officiate the game herself. Boston was battered in the post, but still fought to 12 rebounds. Her presence the only reason Indiana wasn't crushed on the glass. Hull added 9 points, scrapping for every loose ball, every defensive assignment, every ounce of energy she could find. Their stat lines don't tell the whole story. This wasn't about numbers. This was about survival. Atlanta, meanwhile, had weapons to spare. Ryan Howard and Alicia Gray both poured in 20. Nez Hillman stepped up with 16. Griner's size forced double teams, creating open looks all night. It was depth versus desperation, and eventually, depth won. But the scoreboard wasn't what stuck. It was the officiating. The sense that Indiana never had a fair chance to let the game be decided by players instead of whistles. Fans didn't leave the arena debating whether Atlanta was better. They left wondering if Indiana was robbed. Now the focus shifts to Indianapolis. For the first time since 2016, the Fever will host a playoff game at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Nearly a decade of waiting, and the timing could not be more dramatic. Their season is hanging by a thread. The roster still gutted, the same 6 players still sidelined. Clark isn't walking through that tunnel. Sophie Cunningham, Sydney Colson, Arie McDonald, Khloe Bibby all still out. Dantas still in concussion protocol. The deck is stacked exactly the same. But what changes is the crowd. For the first time in years, Fever fans get to pour into Gainbridge and turn it into a cauldron. They can't block shots or knock down threes, but their energy can shift momentum in ways no whistle can erase. This is more than a game. It's a statement. Mitchell can't carry the load alone again. She proved in Game 1 she's capable of brilliance, but Atlanta will swarm her relentlessly. Boston will battle inside, Hull will fight for loose balls, but someone else has to step up. Whether it's Turner hitting mid-range jumpers, Howard slashing to the rim, or Hartley finding space from deep, there has to be another answer, because one star won't beat Atlanta's rotation. But one star plus 17,000 fans, screaming for every possession? That might be enough. Stephanie White knows it. Her players know it. And so do the fans. Game 2 isn't just survival, it's redemption. It's proving that this franchise, beaten down by injuries and undermined by officiating, still refuses to fold. Every possession will matter. Every rebound will matter. Every whistle will sting. But if the Fever can ride their crowd, they can flip the narrative. They can remind the league that playoff basketball in Indiana still means something. Win or lose, this night will be remembered. And sometimes, that's where the story begins. Do you think the Fever were robbed by the refs in Game 1? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're ready for more deep dives into the drama, passion, and chaos of the WNBA, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you never miss a moment. Click the video on your screen now, and we'll see you in the next one.